I've worked with a lot of revenue teams over the years, as you know, and one thing that I find when it comes to pipeline reviews is they make me itch. There is this lack of discipline, there's a lack of structure. You are the CEO of your success. This should feel like a presentation to the board. If you are asking reps, tell me where you are, how much pipeline do you have, how much revenue have you closed, how much is about to be committed and they don't know it, that's on you. And then we get into the secret sauce. This is going to change your life, right? As your reps are talking through their deals, you are challenging them on two things. If you've sent Google a proposal in your sales process, but they are still researching, you can't then say, we're going to forecast Google because we've given them a proposal. This whole process will improve your forecasting without you buying any fancy system, by the way. And any deal that's not in here can't get forecasted. Period. So this is going to be a tactical session for sales leaders, and I want this to be something that you bring into your pipeline reviews, and when it works, I want you to come back and say, Hannah, oh my gosh, this was groundbreaking. So how do we run a one-to-one or a sales team meeting focused on pipeline reviews? Now, pipeline, so there's going to be some stuff. So I really want people to treat this better. I've worked with a lot of revenue teams over the years, as you know, and one thing that I find when it comes to pipeline reviews is they make me itch. There is this lack of discipline, there's a lack of structure, there's a lack of throughput, output, where you actually come away thinking that we have learned something and we know what we're going to do next. So I really feel like there's better ways to think through pipeline reviews as sales leaders. And I want to give you, this is just off the top of my head, just some ideas that I'm thinking through. I want to give you a couple of things that you should be, how you should be thinking about in your head in order to improve pipeline reviews, so that when you do take all of that information and you are submitting a forecast to the upper lords and the people who pay your bills, that you do that with confidence and they also receive it with confidence. All right, so what is pipeline? So pipeline is what a lot of people actually haven't clearly defined in their organization. So a pipeline, let's just say pipeline at a high level, right? So what is pipeline? So pipeline should be opportunities, right? It should be opportunities that have a likelihood of closing. So how do we know if that is true? Well, it's with a company that we can actually deliver value to. So it's our right ICP fit. Ideally, there is budget or discussion around a budget. We have some kind of clarity to some extent around the timeline that they want to make a decision in. We are engaging, speaking to the right types of individuals. There's lots of things to say, but effectively, in order to make sure that we know that something is pipeline, it should be qualified. There's various ways to qualify it. We're not going to go into qualification right now, but it also should be something that you can deliver. You can actually qualify an opportunity and not be able to deliver it, right? So it can meet all the metrics, all the fancy stuff and all the deal qualification and still not be something that you can deliver or even be something that you're willing to do, right? So we need to make sure firstly that we have a proper definition of what pipeline is and how we weight that, the propensity of it closing, all of that stuff. And we need to share that with the sales team because some people will be putting stuff through and they don't. How do we manage pipeline? Right, really quickly, we manage it through our sales process. Okay, so our sales process, as some of you may know, is the semi-linear steps that we have created in order to bring an opportunity that has a potential of revenue through the stages to either a closed lost or a closed won. Okay, so the sales process gives us structure that is repeatable and often scalable, allows us to iterate and measure the effectiveness of how we are moving potential revenue through the business. It's really important to have in place because it allows you to know what's going on at any given time. And what we find is that we'll have pipeline dotted across the different stage of the sales process, okay? And there'll be parts of the sales process where we're like, actually, it's a no. So this is the first thing, right? So once we have that clear understanding, we can start to think about, okay, so if this is the case, how do we start to think about pipeline reviews and pipeline meetings? So I'll tell you what often happens. So a salesperson comes into the room, virtually or in person, and they start to talk through their deals. This is a deal. This is what's happening. This is what the last action was. This is what the next step is. And often you may challenge them and say, okay, so take those next actions. There might be a bit of coaching as well. Like, okay, so how do you think about this? All of those stuff. That's great. That's necessary. But I want to give you containers to think through as to how do we do this well in a pipeline review. So the first thing with pipeline reviews, okay, so step one, right, is the pre-work. So the pre-work to pipeline reviews, I guess there's two levels to it. One is the always on deal management. You should be developing a culture inside the organization where your team proactively manage their deals, not reactively. Proactively means daily, they are looking at portions of their pipeline and they're saying, what's happening? What's going on here? Oh, I didn't understand that. That wasn't clear. Let me quickly call. Let me check internally at what's happening. Let me ping that person. Let me ping that person. We have to create a culture of that, because sometimes inside organizations, you will get reps who are like, well, no one told me. So I'm just kind of waiting around, particularly if they're more junior. Okay, so the pre-work is effectively culturally, right? So culture is basically the behavior, right? The behavior, the things, the expressions when you're not in the room, okay? What is reflective of what you want to see inside the team? So culturally, right, we want to see what is develop a culture for deal management. On the other side, right, it's going to be making sure that everything is up to date. If you culturally develop that, then it should happen automatically. But if you don't, then you're going to have a tick box exercise with your reps where they have to come to the meeting, making sure that their pipeline is up to date. Everyone's like, I don't like reps are wasting time on admin, but it's actually part of the job. So yes, there's AI that can help with that. But what that also does is if all the AI is pushing all the data back into your CRM system, they don't even look at it. They're just like, I'm just remembering what's in my head based on the last conversation or interaction. Okay, so the pre-work for any kind of pipeline review is making sure that people are up to date. Instill fear. I'm going to add this. The problem here is you need to instill fear. People are like, that's a bit toxic. It's not. You are responsible as a salesperson of your own book of business. You are the CEO of your success. If you are the CEO of success, then there's certain expectations that you set onto these sales reps, right? So they must be making sure that they come into the pipeline review meeting prepared. I'm about to tell you about my business is effectively how we want to be thinking through it. Because what I see is these really just kind of, I retreat. This should feel like a presentation to the board. Let me tell you about my deals. I know everything inside out, because guess what? It controls if I keep my job, if I get paid, if I get that car or that holiday, if I can pay for my kids' tuition, how I look on my career prospects inside the organization and my target. Like, why would I not treat that really important with a lot of care? If you don't develop this culture of fear, okay, I don't mean literally, right? But they should feel like this is an important meeting. I don't get to turn up late. I don't get to wander in. I don't get to say, oh, sorry, I was on a meeting. I didn't get time to do that. That's not optional, because as a sales leader, there is no way on God's green earth, whatever you believe in, that you could turn up to a board meeting and say, I'm really sorry, I had a meeting, and therefore I'm just going to wing it. It doesn't happen. We must create these behaviors early on, right? These behaviors were instilled in me before I even had a revenue target. So with pipeline reviews, if you have BDRs in the meeting as well, don't let them sit there twiddling their thumbs. They should be presenting their meetings, their MQLs, SQLs, whatever you do, the meetings being booked, the outreach, the sequence performance. That's their pipeline. And what we do is we don't get BDRs and SDRs to start thinking that way early on. And therefore, when it comes to the point that they do get promoted into AE, we're like, why do they not know how to show up? Why are they struggling so much? Because you never taught them how to. So let's make sure that with the BDRs, and I'll just quickly put it here, right? So with BDRs, they should be talking about sequences. How are they performing? What are they seeing working? What's coming back from the market? What's the sentiment? They should be talking about meetings booked, okay? Who do we book a meeting with? Why does this look good? What's going out? They should be talking about the MQLs they've received and the SALs, right? And ops, because if they're getting paid on ops, right? Why do they not know about them? They should be reporting back. This is my business right now. My business, let them call their business a name, if that helps, right? Maybe their initials, right? So the HA Limited, HA LLC just reporting in, right? So this is what's been happening so far in my business. I'm telling you, this is how you develop the future leaders in your organization. When I started out in sales almost 20 years ago, so many of the reps that I was around that stayed in the business became the senior leaders, because we were taught that stuff day one. You couldn't show up unprepared, right? Okay, so during, all right, so that's the pre-work, right? Get that all prepared, right? Understand what's going on, get your numbers together. If you are asking reps, tell me where you are, how much pipeline do you have, how much revenue have you closed, how much is about to be committed and they don't know it, that's on you. All right, so during, what we want to do is we want a business report. All right, give me your business report. Tell me what is happening, right? So the business report, that's the usual stuff that you expect, right? So what's happening here, what's happening there, what's happening here. A bit like what I was explaining with the BDRs. We want them to tell us what's happening in their business. We want them to look historically, what's the progress, where are things stuck. So let me just write it down, right? So the business report is, kind of a summary, and this summary should include revenue. Okay, so it's Q1 so far this month. I've not closed anything. Let them feel that pain. Do you know how horrible it is to turn up to a sales meeting and you say repeatedly every month, I haven't closed any revenue? What do you think that's going to do? It's going to force someone to want to make sure that they don't show up to that meeting with having not closed any revenue. Like, this is some old school stuff. I tell you, it works. Okay, so you start off, hey, just reporting for kind of my side of the business. So this month, unfortunately, I haven't closed any revenue, but guess what? I've got a plan. Like, that's what you want people to do, right? What's your plan for the fact that you are behind quota? This should be a team thing. It shouldn't be something that happens in a one-to-one. I don't understand why we hide. Everyone has revenue. You can just go into CRM, see what people are doing. All right. Revenue performance. How are you doing? Okay, cool. Then we want individual stuff. Maybe you want to categorize deals. Maybe you want to, I don't know how you want to structure it. It varies, and I'm not going to go into the different ways to structure it. But effectively, I'm trying to get to the level where you're asking each rep to do stuff, right? So they do their summary. Now they're breaking down. So kind of like progress from last week, right? So progress from previous week. We have, once you have the progress from the previous week, we're talking about, what's been done, what's been said, right? Then we want to talk about internal stuff, right? Because progress is internal and external. We want to talk about, of course, like deal stage. Do I need to be this specific? So deal stage and why. Get reps into the habit of saying, I want to talk about, the opportunity with Google. As you know, we are working to help Google achieve X, Y, and Z. And currently they are at proposal stage. And we've been working internally with a team. Maria in finance is doing this. Alex in legal has been looking through the terms. This has been with this, it's currently with their team, right? So we want to get real specific, because what happens is when the team get used to providing those summaries, it develops their communication skills and how they start to articulate the value proposition, how they start to articulate how the reason why people are buying. Everyone in a room gets to learn that as well. They get that shared knowledge of why would Google work with us? What is it they did? What's the problem? What are we solving? Where's the challenges? Where's the issues? Where's the blockers? Like, why would you take this? And this is why you end up hiring external salespeople, external sales trainers, because you don't share the knowledge internally in your own teams, all right? But you can also hire me. So deal stages and why. Okay, where we're at from here. So progress from the previous week, internal, external, deal stage and why. And you want to have like next actions. Oh God, next actions here. We also want to talk about with each deal. So you got next actions, like, blockers, hurdles. So hurdles and blockers. I'm rushing through this because there's actually some secret sauce that I want to give you. And that's why I'm like, let me just get through the boring stuff, right? So you want hurdles and blockers. The hurdles and blockers help you reveal, where I needed. I know in some organizations, sales leaders are in every deal, but sometimes you're not. The way that you savor your time, the way that you protect your time is by observing what is happening in your team and understanding where you step in. You do not need to be in everything. That's not fun. It also means that you're not good at everything. So you need to find out where you need to step in so that you can be brilliant at that one thing. Okay, so where am I needed? And they need to understand that, because if they understand their deals properly, they'll very clearly say, I need you to do this, or I don't need that. It might need to unblock something, it might need to push something through, apply a bit of pressure, all of these pieces, right? So we want a deep business report from each rep. They don't need to go through every single individual. Some companies have 20 deals. You ain't got time to go through 20 deals. You need a business summary. And you might want to do like the top opportunities, the lowest, the highest value, the most interesting ones. Maybe you have that. This week, team, bring your most interesting deals. This team, because you're going to have one-to-ones with them, which is separate. So this week team, I want you to bring the newest deals. I want you to tell the state of my business, right? This business report, I want to go into this a bit more actually. This business report, right? I want to see what's the pipeline growth or decline, right? So my business needs pipeline. My business needs revenue. My business needs meetings. My business needs activities. Tell us what's been going on. This week I had 4 meetings, really quite promising, some a bit more frustrating. That actually converted into 22 million in pipeline. That would be nice, 4 meetings, maybe 22K in pipeline. And so what that's seen is, based on last week to this week, I've seen an increase in about 10% pipeline, which is really exciting. And the majority of it is actually solid. It's right in our ICP. This is what we should be talking about, because guess what? When you want to be a CRO, if you're not a CRO already, or you want to be a CEO or COO, whatever it is, you need someone to take over your spot. You can't move if there's no one to replace you. I want to know the person in the team that's doing this stuff. There is time for it. This is just a 4-minute summary at the beginning of their breakdown, a 2-minute summary. Put the brackets in place, give them 5 minutes, put a timer on. Everybody gets 5 minutes to talk about their pipeline. Then we're gonna highlight what we then start to workshop. Okay, so everyone does their report. And then we get into the secret sauce, right? So the secret sauce, pipeline reviews. The secret sauce takes the reps report plus the highlighted things to workshop, workshop plus secret sauce. Okay, so the secret sauce is very simple. So the secret sauce of pipeline reviews is you doing this as it happens. If you have your meetings virtually, I want you to share your screen and I want you to do this. This is going to change your life, right? Secret sauce. So as your reps are talking through their deals, you are challenging them on two things. And it's broken into these areas. You've seen me talk about this before, right? So we're talking about research and we're talking about review. Who knows where I'm going with this? Anyone? No one? Who knows? Because this is a recording and I don't know what you're saying or where you are in the video. All right. So the secret sauce is understanding the buyer side, the buyer journey side. Every time your amazing reps talk about their deals, you're going to say, this is brilliant. I don't care about the sales process. This is brilliant. So you know what we do every week. So Hannah, tell me where this deal is. All right. So you're talking about Google and this crazy opportunity you have. Are they in research or review? And they're going to be like, sorry. And you're going to say, well, tell me, on a scale of 1 to 10, where do we think they are in their buyer journey? Right. So are they shortlisting vendors? Or at the early stages educating? I would say, boss, that they are probably still doing a bit of research, actually educating. So I'd say maybe a 4. Okay, cool. Doesn't matter about the numbers. We just know that this is 1 to 10. This is about 5 and 6, right? So kind of around there. Okay, so you're saying, cool. So this is Google. So what you want to do is start plotting your deals. The reason why, because if Google's in proposal's quite late stage in a deal. So in your sales process, and this is why this is so funny, right? So I did this wrong. All right, I'm going to try and write it here. In your sales process, you've got let's just say you've got discovery, you've got demo, right? You've got I don't know, you've got scoping, you've got proposal, you've got, I don't know, verbal, legals, whatever it is, right? If you've sent Google a proposal in your sales process, but they are still researching, you can't then say we're going to forecast Google because we're giving them a proposal. I could go out and walk through Canary Wharf in London and just give out proposals. Does that mean that someone's going to buy from me? Absolutely not. Even if I've spoken to them, we have to make sure that we're aligning all of this pipeline reviews to where people are in their buyer journey. Because what you have is you're going to have all these people, oh, they said that they really want to work with us. Oh, we're scoping stuff out. And it's like, okay, they're really, really early on in their process because their scoping and their proposals is allowing them to build an RFI, as an example, where they're still figuring out their stuff. If a company has an RFI and you've given a proposal, as an example, right? And you've given a proposal to kind of support that RFI, they're still in research, they're not in review. Review is when you have internal consensus as a buying organization on the decision to take action to try to resolve an issue, challenge, or opportunity, and you are proactively engaging vendors and shortlisting based on a need that you've agreed on. Most companies they struggle to get there. Most companies are still trying to get alignment. Do we even want to do this? Is it important enough? Have we quantified it? Do we have time? It's going to take too much effort. How much resources? How much money do we have? Do we need a business plan? Do we need budget? What we need to do is make sure that as your reps are giving you this report on what's happening in their business, right? You're saying, okay, cool. And you're challenging them. Because now what you want to do is understand what is the dotted line, Han. Hey, Han, because if you're my boss, you should be calling me Han. Hey, Han, what's the dotted line to review? What do we understand about their buying journey? If you watch the sales strategy video, you'll see that. What do we understand about their process and their decision-making process? Because we keep ticking this medpic stuff, right? You keep saying that you know their decision-making process, but yet you're still forecasting a deal just because you know that you can know it, but if they're not moving through it, you can't say, I know how to get to New York. Get a plane, it goes over one of the oceans and I land there. Does that mean that I'm in New York? No, I just know how to get there. So you can't say that because I'm aware and we know our decision-making process that definitely means that it's closing. The quality of the deal is going to be determined on the buyer's reality. The quality of the deal, and its propensity to close is going to be dependent on the buyer's reality. So in your pipeline reviews, get your deals to be plotted, right? So you might have a rep that says, I'm talking about my business and my deals, and I had a meeting and I had all the stakeholders in the room and they were explaining what's really important to them, and they have collectively decided to go ahead and buy a new CRM. And they're currently unhappy with their current CRM. They've started to quantify that if they had this new CRM that integrates into all the other platforms, there's going to be a total cost of ownership cost that actually drives down. They're going to need less RevOps people. more and they can focus more in AI because this platform, all of this stuff, you're like, I heard alignment in there. I heard a need. I heard proactive vendors. So let's just put new op, right? So that op name, whatever the company is, we like using Acme, right? So what does Acme stand for? Is it like another company made up? What does Acme stand for? Tell me what that means in the comments. So yeah, we have a new op and they're in review. So even if we have to rush through our sales process to try and get there, because we're like, man, these are guys that are in review. We've just had a discovery session with them. We need to catch up. Let's accelerate the demo and the scoping because it looks like they know what they need. Let's do that fast, right? That's how it works. Buyer before sales process, buyer journey in tandem. All right. So your pipeline review, this was a random video, isn't it? Really random, but I like to talk. So your pipeline review should be a reps report and communication of their business. How's their business performing right now? Give them a business score. That's even better. Forget pipeline score. Give them a business performance score. Let reps share what they're doing. I don't know why we wait till QBRs to do all of this stuff. This is how I performed every week in your pipeline reviews. You get 5 minutes up front to talk about your business. If you have a bigger team, you get 3 minutes up front. Get them get used to being concise and very precise of how they communicate things, making them very clear and not kind of waffling on like I do because I'm on YouTube and I do what I want. That is all I wanted to talk about with pipeline reviews, all right? So really quickly, because we always like to go back. Pipeline reviews, before you can even get to that, you need to understand clearly across the team what pipeline means and across the business and understand how that relates to your sales process. From here, there's different structures, right? There's big areas regarding the prep for that. There's pre-work and there's actually what happens during. There's also after, right? If we wanted to do after, we could just talk about, right? So you like hold them accountable in their one-to-one. Hold them accountable. How are you gonna hold them accountable? They'll just say they're gonna do stuff and they won't do it. You won't even check. This is why you need the time. You need to know where you're needed so you can focus on stuff like making sure stuff gets done. Anyways, pre-work. You should be setting a culture where people feel like they need to come correct. They know their numbers, they know their data, they know their deals, and they can talk about it. During the meeting, they should be giving a business report, a summary of how things are going. They should be talking about the most significant deals, the most challenging opportunities. They should be highlighting things to workshop in that meeting if you have the time. They should be looking at how things are moving both internally and externally, and they should be clearly identifying what help they need and what blockers they need that you can do to step in and support. BDRs should be part of this. Do not leave your BDRs hanging. They get very bored in sales meetings if you do not include them. Make sure that they show up with the same level of fear so that they can make a plan and report on their business. Okay, so when we're thinking about the business report, pipeline, revenue, meetings, activities, what is happening in your business, right? And in the pipeline reviews, as they are sharing this, you proactively sales leader, make this a shared screen and plot it because we will need them to defend this. Okay, so you told me Google's doing this. This is a fantastic opportunity. What do we know about their buying decision journey? Where are they going next? Because right now, this is nothing that we can commit or forecast. Okay, so when you have whatever pipeline appears in this is what you can forecast. This whole process will improve your forecasting without you buying any fancy system, by the way, because you are going to determine what these both these things mean to your organization, and any deal that's not in here can't get forecast, period. I would encourage you to add a field in your CRM that says review or research. If it's not being ticked review, then all the other fields, it's a required field. You can't even forecast it. You can't commit it, nothing. You must be able to know that they are in their own review process and they're actively working to solve a problem. All right, that's it. Thank you for listening. See you in the next video.